Good afternoon to all of you. Let me first welcome all of you to this session of European Humanitarian Forum, which will be focusing on the participatory camp improvement. UNRWA, with support from donor community, is actively contributing to the improvement of the urban built environment in Palestine refugee camps through an innovative participatory camp improvement planning that puts refugees at the heart of decision making. During this session, panel members will be presenting and discussing their experiences, benefits, and challenges related to camp improvement planning from different lenses and perspective. UNRWA will be presenting from operational perspective, while KFW and GIZ will highlight the experiences from donors and partner perspective. While Berlin University and KU Leuven University will bring academic and research perspective to make this participatory camp improvement planning more effective in refugee settings. With this as a background, let me first introduce myself. I am Vijay Nikra, working as a head, Housing and Camp Improvement Division in UNRWA, and will be co-chairing this session along with German Federal Ministry of Economic Development and Cooperation, who has been providing continuous support to UNRWA and Camp Improvement Program. Unfortunately, Mr. Mark from BMZ got sick, and he will be missing this session. However, we are lucky that we have Mr. Sebastian from BMZ with us, who is responsible for Palestine portfolio, and I request him to provide some opening remarks. Over to you, Sebastian.
Thank you, Vijay. Very happy to have the possibility to give some opening remarks in this session. Together with UNRWA, the BMZ is pursuing the goal of improving the situation of Palestinian refugees. The refugee camps are more than 70 years old. Since then, the number of residents has greatly increased, and temporary tent cities have become extremely crowded clusters of buildings. More and more people have to live in increasingly small spaces. In one of the camps in the West Bank, each resident lives in an average of just 6.5 square meters. Together with UNRWA and together with the residents, BMZ is working at various levels to improve the situation in the camps. We support UNRWA's program to improve refugee camps. We can support civil society organizations and thus help residents learn how to deal with stressful circumstances in a non-violent manner. We also support MHPSS, mental health and psychosocial support programs. We finance the participatory selection, planning and implementation of infrastructural measures, and in this way, we give the population the chance to build up life prospects despite the unresolved political conflict. The BMZ supports engagement at all levels. It is particularly important to us to promote co-determination in the refugees' own commitment. Communal structures do not exist in the refugee camps. For a long time, residents had little opportunity to further develop their surroundings. The right to have a say is part of a dignified life. With the Participatory Camp Improvement Program, the camp residents can contribute to improving their environment themselves. In this way, improving the situation in the camps can contribute to a dignified life in two ways. On the one hand, through the improved living conditions themselves. But at least as important for people is that you listen to them and that they have a say in how to shape their lives. Finally, it is important for me to stress that the experience gained in the Palestinian refugee camps can also benefit refugees in other regions of the world. Thank you very much, and back to you, Vijay.
Thank you, Sebastian, for your opening remarks. With us actually, there are panel members from KFW, GIZ, Berlin University, KU Leuven University. Also, there are Palestine refugees from camp who will also be presenting their experiences, especially related to camp improvement. Thus, may I request the panel members to briefly introduce themselves. We may start from KFW, followed by GIZ, Berlin University, and KU Leuven University. Thank you.
Much, Vijay. And hello also from my side. My name is Dilara Fuchs. I'm project manager at KfW Development Bank, based in Frankfurt headquarters, and responsible for our regional portfolio at KfW with UNRWA. among others, the REPAC program that we have in terms of camp improvement in Gaza, Lebanon, and Jordan, but also our new project on digital transformation with UNRWA. Thank you very much. Glad to be here. It's an honor. And I'm handing over to my colleague Samira from GIZ.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Samira Khairallah. I'm working for the GIZ for the regional project part. I'm responsible for the implementation here in Lebanon, and it's an honor to speak today. Thank you very much. Back to you, Vijay.
From Berlin University and followed by KU Leuven University.
My name is Philipp Mislewitz. I am an architect and urbanist teaching at the Technical University Berlin. And I've been to support UNRWA over the last years in the conceptualization and rollout of the camp improvement planning. And we'll talk to you later about some insights I gained during this time.
Hello, I'm Ismail Sheikh Hassan. I'm also an urbanist, and I was part of the collaboration between KU Leuven and KU Leuven Master's Program in Urbanism and the Camp Improvement Program in UNRWA back in 2012. And currently, I'm also working with the GIZ as part of a team on technical support to UNRWA on camp improvement. I'm glad to be with you all.
Thank you to all our esteemed panel members. Now let's go ahead with the agenda. So the first item in the agenda is about the camp improvement. Of course, from the UNRWA side, I will be presenting, and I will be taking you through the journey of camp improvement. The focus, I will take you through the journey of participatory camp improvement planning through the slides. Just to give you a small background, the Palestine refugee camps were established due to the displacement that happened in 1948 and 67. And since then, the camps start growing and urbanized, mostly in an unregulated and unplanned manner, which actually resulted in high density and overcrowding in the camps. There were lack of public spaces, inadequate infrastructure, issue of privacy, issue of natural lighting and ventilation because of crowdness, and of course there is an issue of access to the person with disability and others. Let me give you a very brief about what is camp improvement planning. Camp improvement planning is a participatory and a community-driven process where it provides a platform for the refugees for their voices to speak up, and their voices can be heard and addressed. And of course, the entire process is led by community. It's a comprehensive, integrated, and holistic approach to achieve a sustainable built environment. Of course, during the process, once we try to mitigate the camp worst problems and ensuring that we are not doing any harm to anyone. In brief, the camp improvement planning consists of 7-step cycle as shown on the screen. In the center, if you see, these are the refugees. So the entire cycle is the center or the heart is refugees. So our entire process revolves around the refugees. The first step is about the initial contact, is about gaining the trust and the confidence of the community. This is the most important step, where the working group is formalized. Working group is a platform where the community represent, and they are the one who finally takes decision about the camp about the camp and about the needs, about the priorities. The second step is about the need assessment. In this process, we conduct different focus group from different segment of the community, whether it is for person with disability, or it is for unemployed males or females, or it's about the women, or it's about the elderly men, even for the children. So during this process, we try to identify the need list of the community. Of course, these are some of the pictures showing the focus group discussions that are done in some of the camps. In parallel, we also look into to match the needs with the technical study. So for this, we do conduct a lot of surveys, especially the spatial assessment is being done, household surveys are done, and shelter assessment is done. In the third step, it's about diagnosis, is about doing analysis and analyzing the data that has been gathered and the needs that has come up from the community. And while analyzing, we come up with the camp priority list for the camp. And in the fourth step, we formulate a camp improvement plan. Camp improvement plan is mainly putting the vision and strategies for the improvement of the camp. The camp improvement plan has two components. It has an urban improvement plan and also has a community development plan. Urban improvement plan, as it addresses the physical and the built environment of the camp, and some of the broad objectives are like through this camp improvement planning, we try to control the density and the building heights in the camp, how to improve the public spaces in the camp, how to improve the street and the accessibility in the camp, what are the issues of infrastructure and urban basic services in the camp. So these are being studied and tried to resolve. Of course, shelter is one of the most important components for improvement. Nearby facilities and other installation, whether it's school or health centers, it is also studied and addressed. Commercial activities, marketplaces, if needs certain intervention, it is also addressed. Neighborhood, we addresses urban neighborhoods within the camp. And if there are natural environment, we try to protect through the camp improvement plan. Now, as I said, there is a second component of the camp improvement plan is community development plan, which addresses the softer component and try to strengthen and empower the local camp community so that they can act as the agent of change. Some of the objective is, of course, to generate employment opportunities for the refugees, expand their businesses, the local business sectors, strengthen the civil society institutions that are in the camp, improve the educational and other facilities in the camp. And of course, the most important is to build an effective camp management capacity. On to the fifth step, once the camp improvement plan is done, we try to formulate some certain feasible project which can be implemented. So this is called an action plan, the list of the projects which can be feasible. And of course, we look for funding, and once the funds are received, we go for an implementation. So the last two steps is about implementation and sustainability. And of course, I mean, as I said, the working group or the participatory planning platform is the most important thing, where we try to enhance their capacity. And during the process of implementation, we make sure assessment is being carried out and the monitoring works are done on a regular basis. I will go through quickly some of the works or the impacts that has been created through the camp improvement planning and the works that has been done in some of the camps. For an example, this shows a picture of a shelter before, and this shows a picture of a shelter after. Similarly, I mean, some of the impressions, I mean, each shelter that we do has a different stories. So for an example, these are some of the impressions for the refugees' families. For an example, they are saying, I can receive my neighbors now for a morning coffee. This is very important because they were shy of calling the friends for a coffee or as a guest in their houses. Another one, this winter we don't have to stay awake under the 9-all sheet until the rain stops. So these are some of the impressions. I mean, we for each shelter we have a different impression, but just to give you an idea. These are some of the works of public spaces that has been done in the camp, and ensuring that all these spaces are accessible for persons with disabilities also. These are some of the works we are still under preparation in the design form, and soon will be implemented. These are public spaces in Hussein Camp in Jordan. Now, these are the small pockets in the congested camps. And these are very, very small area, and we are trying to create a sort of an environment where at least people can come and relax a bit. And of course, as I said, these are accessible for persons with disabilities. Again, some spaces, children's spaces in the Women Program Center. These before and after picture shows the school street. I mean, of course, I don't have to say how the impact, how it creates. This is within the camp, how the camps, the environment as a whole improves with improvement in the streets. This is the multi-story housing project which is under construction in Gaza to decongest one of the oversaturated camps in Gaza. This is another story from one of the camp in Lebanon, Burj Barajna camp. I mean, there is a network of water pipes and cables, and because of this, a lot of the refugees were getting electric shocks. And through this project, I mean, this was one of the need, and we are trying to resolve it. This is another from Burj Barajna camp, Lebanon. The Haifa electric substation we try to modify. This is some of the works done for the markets. It shows the before and after picture. And this is the project that has been is under implementation in Gaza for a shore development project. It has dual purpose. One is to protect the camp from the sea waves, and secondly, of course, it's a public space for the refugees. Of course, all these works cannot be completed unless the community can participate and work along with the team. Youth volunteerism and promotion and empowerment, all these activities are the part and parcel of the camp improvement planning. In parallel, we try to provide different trainings to the best possible, subject to funding. Like in this, we have provided training to women and ladies for sewing and mosaic preparation. Similarly, other camps, we have provided training on capacity development, on filmmaking and others. So that's all from my side. May I request to please play one video about the SIP. It will highlight the three components. One is about the feeling of the refugees. Second, how they are participating. And thirdly, what impact they had it as a part of camp improvement planning. Thank you.
يعني حوالين الدار مع صاحبات مع بنات عمي مع اللي بدنا يلعب انه بس يكون مراقب تحت عينه بحبش يبعده. يعني بتمنى انه لو يكون في صحات اقول لك يعني حياة المخيم مش مثالية ان اكابر برضو غلط. في كثير اشياء بنقصنا في المخيم بس الواحد بده يكيف حياته يعني. لو في صحات عامة للأطفال بيطلعوا بيلعبوا حوالينا في وساع بيطلعوا بيلعبوا مع بنات عمهم مع بنات وأهم شيء عندي صغار يلعب. أنا إلي 11 سنة متجوز في المخيم. لو أروح المخيم تحت أنا بضيع صدقا يعني ظهر رحمة هذول الصحبات تحت تا واحدة تروح معي تا أعرف أروح عندها بتوه من كتر ما تدور شو الشباك بالشباك الله يعينهم.
والله أنا بنتمي للفوار بس يعني مش انتماء قوي. أنا بحبش الفوار عن جد صراحة بحبوش بنتميلوش بعرفش ليش. أول شيء المخيم مضغوط. اثنين الناس هيك فيش خصوصية في المخيم يعني وضع المخيم دور البناء كثير تعيس عن جد كثير تعيس. ما فيش أماكن عندنا اللي الواحد مناطق ترفيهية اللي يروح عليها يقعد يقضي له ساعتين ثلاث طول اليوم هو ولاده مثلا ينزهق يوم جمعة مثلا يوم عطلة.
يعني كيف بتحبوا الساحة؟ تكون مسكرة الساحة. الساحة تكون يعني بنى مسكرة يمكن النسوان يجي يمكن يجي فيها.
بقدروش يسكروا.
بقول يمكن مسكرة.
أما الشوادر
مسكرة.
شو مسكرة؟ يعني مسكورة على الصور زي الشوادر إشي.
النسلان لحالهم.
لحالهم ما حداش بيجي النسلان.
بدكم محل يعني للنسوان بس.
يعني بلشت أكثر أفهم كيف ممكن إحنا نعمل دراسة احتياجات للمخيم وكيف إنه الاحتياج بس يكون طالع من الناس وتصنيف هاي الاحتياجات يتم تصنيفها من الناس بتكون أكثر خدمة لهم وأكثر حل لمشاكلهم. بالتالي أنت ما بتعمل إشي ما بيفيدهم، بتكون على قدر إنك تعمل إشي على إنه يحقق الاستدامة لهي المشاريع اللي بتتنفذ.
الشيء الوحيد اللي استفدته من هذا المشروع أو من الBMZ والGIZ اللي هي كيف إنه أنا أبتكر، كيف أطور مشروع، كيف أشتغل على مشروع، كيف أعمل مشروع وأختلق شيء لخدمة أهل المخيم.
بدنا ملعب عام مفتوح، يكون في ألعاب للأولاد يقدروا يستخدموها، الأولاد يكون دامج، يعني كانت هي الفكرة إنه كمان الأطفال ذوي الاحتياجات الخاصة نقدر ندمجهم بالأطفال الأصحاء.
المساحة لازم برضو تواجه المشكلة الاجتماعية أو المشكلة الاقتصادية عشان تقدر تشتغل كمساحة، وهذا اللي احنا حابين نعمله بهاي المساحة، مش إنه فقط حطينا بنشات وحطينا شجر وحطينا ما بعرف شو مفكرين المجتمع رح يستخدمها. فعشان هيك يعني هاي التحديات كتير كان مهم نسمعها اليوم، عشان لما نيجي نعمل المساحة ونبرمجها ونعمل لها ديزاين بدها تكون واجهت هاي التحديات.
هاي المساحة الفاضية أو المستخدمة هي حاليا بنحل هاي هون الحمامات، تطلع هاي المنطقة طبعا تتظبط لما ترجع تشتغل الأطفال.
كنا الصغار أو بدنا الكبار. وهاي هاي شو بسموها؟ ترامبولين.
لا بمشروع الريباك نحن كانت الاقتراحات مننا نحن من
The participatory approach through involvement of the community is very important for KFW because it ensures that with our measures we reach the demands and we meet the demands of the community in the Palestinian refugee camps.
لكن لما انتهى البيت وقعدت أنا وولادي حسينا بالأمان ما بتوصف.
أنا لما أروح على الملعب بحس بحرية كبيرة.
سابقا المخيم كان وضعه مأساة، الوضع ما شاء الله اختلف كليا للعلم، لأنه العمار هذا مش أنا اللي استفدت كمان، إذا بتطلع على الإفادة اللي أنا استفدتها، استفاد المقاول، استفاد القصير، استفاد البنا، استفاد على مستوى تاع المطعم اللي ببيع فول حمص استفاد. كنت ناخذ أول شيء صحن فول على سبيل المثال، هسه باخذ 4 صحون 5 صحون، الكل استفاد ما شاء الله، هذا من كرم الله كويس.
I hope the 3 videos have given you a little bit of a glimpse of what is camp improvement planning and how the GIZ and the KFW and the BMZ is supporting in improving the living conditions in the camp. Now, moving forward, let's look at the camp improvement planning from the lens of development partners and donors. What is the value and the interest of them in engaging in the participatory camp improvement planning? This will be highlighted by KFW and GIZ. Let's start with GIZ, followed by KFW. Over to you, Samira.
Thank you very much, Vijay. In the next few minutes, I would like to shed the light on the value of SIP, the mindset of SIP out of our perspective of GIZ as an implementing partner to UNRWA, but also to the host governments and Palestinian civil society. Let me go back a bit to 2010 when the BMZ commissioned GIZ and KFW in a joint development program called Supporting Palestinian Refugees, to support UNRWA and the Palestinian communities in conducting, implementing, managing the camp improvement project. I would like to give an example. This was, it started in, I think, 2013 in Rashidiyah. The camp improvement project was ongoing and implemented by UNRWA when the camp community identified the need of an elderly care center. And this was taken up at that time by the GIZ and the working group, the committee that consists of the representatives of the different segment of society, the one also Vijay presented in his input, decided at that time that a specific civil society organization would be the right one to implement that project in partnership with us. It was the Women Program Center with which we planned and designed this project. And this is how Sanabil, it's called Sanabil, the Elderly Care Center in Rashidiyah, came to life. And it's quite interesting and also outstanding process because it's not given that representatives from all NGOs and all from also political representatives are finding a common ground on who should implement a project. So in the meanwhile, this project is handed over to the community. They found funds themselves to continue this project. And also KfW supported this project, and I will leave this to my colleague Dilara to explain it in her intervention. This shows how we as GIZ supported the community within the SIP process, but we also supported the SIP process on other levels in different stages. One of it is also the provision of technical advice to UNRWA in the implementation of the camp improvement process. It's not only through very particular technical advice with regard to electricity or the improvement of water or shelter, but it also accompanies UNRWA in the often not very easy journey of facilitating community processes, decision-making processes, and managing also the complex relationship between the Palestinian community and UNRWA. On another layer, it's also the support to the community itself, to support them or advise them also how to format themselves inclusively, how to bring together different representatives from NGOs, from political parties, from the different committees together, and also how to formulate the relationship between the working group in this case and, for example, UNRWA. My last point, I would like to just highlight what the SIP brings as added values. It, I think on an individual level, it gives the refugees a lot of space for developing and skills, negotiation skills, planning skills, dialogue skills. It also gives space for gaining knowledge, especially knowledge about their own local setting, about their camps. It also increases, or it can increase the individual well-being because people can participate and can bring in their voices. And it has a huge impact on the social structure. It gives much more possibility to marginalized people or segments of society for decision making. It is a challenge to the traditional governance in the camps, but it is also more inclusive when it comes to the structures of the working group, and the decision-making power is distributed on more shoulders. With regard to norms and values, the Camp Improvement Project very much promotes values of solidarity, of the benefit for cooperation and of cooperation, and also voluntarism. I think it has a huge impact also on the relationship between the refugee community and UNRWA. It also is a comprehensive vision that should be owned by the community, and it also gives donors and implementing agency a more localized, needs-driven plan, and everyone can choose her or his niche to intervene or to support. Last but not least, the Camp Improvement Project gives a lot of space for dialogue and negotiation, and if we see more camp improvement projects, we would also see more of these spaces. Thank you very much, and I give back the floor to Vijay. Thanks.
Thank you, Samira, for bringing the donor's perspective as a technical support and also as a development partner. It's really, I mean, you also touched on the SIP and the benefits of the SIP. Now, moving ahead, over to you, Dilara from KFW.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vijay, and hello again from my side. Before speaking about the value of camp improvement, I would, or allow me briefly to speak about KFW and our cooperation with UNRWA. So similar to GIZ, KFW implements projects for BMZ, but also for other ministries and for the Foreign Office. And thereby our projects focus on financial cooperation, providing financing to governments, commercial banks, but also UN agencies and NGOs in developing and emerging economies. UNRWA is a key partner for KFW and a key partner in our support to Palestine refugees in the region. We have a large portfolio with UNRWA, reaching from camp infrastructure to shelter reconstruction, employment generation, but also more recently digitalization. Under the name REPAC, our regional program for Palestine refugees, which has also been displayed in the last video, KFW has supported UNRWA in the implementation of the Camp Improvement Program, shortly known also as CIP. And the joint REPAC program started in 2012 in 3 selected refugee camps in Lebanon and Jordan. In 2014, the Gaza Strip was included in the program. And so far, more than 130 million euro have been spent over 11 project phases. The aim of REPAC, and this was also mentioned already, is the improvement in living conditions in Palestine refugee camps through multi-sectoral measures, such as rehabilitation of roads, but also water sanitation, school buildings, playgrounds, coastal protection, many of those that also my colleague Vijay has mentioned before. Now in 2022, REPAC is active in 8 refugee camps in the region. Now moving to the value of CIP. When we began with REPAC in 2012, consultation processes had been established in the very first 3 camps where we started. So this means that camp improvement plans and also the community's chosen list of priority projects were available. KFW was thus able to finance projects from the camp priority list. In recent years, the commitment for CIP funding and CIP development has decreased, and KFW has started to financially support these soft processes, which form the basis for our infrastructure investments. We have, for example, supported the camp improvement process in Burj Barajne camp in Lebanon, but also in Marka camp in Jordan. And from KfW perspective, the camp improvement program has been a very crucial and effective instrument to design and implement projects in a participatory, inclusive, and conflict-sensitive way. Through CIP, the projects go beyond stone and cement, but it's more infrastructure plus. And this is also where we at KfW see the added value of our cooperation. Given our long commitment since 2012 under the REPAC program, we have recently completed an evaluation of the program. And here in the evaluation, it was also confirmed that CIP is actually without alternative as a tool for project implementation. On the one hand, it allows us to work with existing structures in the camp. And on the other hand, the projects that we have implemented so far demonstrate the extent to which vulnerable groups are indeed actively represented and are able to make their voices heard. Our most recent example in this regard is the construction and completion of the Community Center for Women and the Elderly in South Lebanon in Rashidiyeh camp, which also my colleague Samira mentioned before. So to sum this up and also to go beyond, CIP for us at KfW is also more than dialogue and a consultation process. It is also a tool for the community to actually realize and implement their project needs. So on the basis of the CIP, the communities experience what specific results a consultation process can bring about in terms of hard infrastructure, but they also develop an understanding of how projects work, that projects have specific budgets and certain timeframes. So in a nutshell, due to its participatory nature, CIP contributes to stability, social cohesion, and also conflict prevention in Palestine refugee camps in the region. And this is also the developmental impact of our intervention. Thank you very much. And yeah, back to Vijay.
Many thanks. Thank you, Dilara, for sharing the KfW experience in engaging as a key development partner in camp improvement planning, especially improving the living conditions. And right now, as you mentioned, KfW is active in 8 camps in Jordan, Lebanon, and Gaza. So definitely, I mean, many thanks from the refugee side and of course from UNRWA side in improving the living conditions. Now, let's move to the next session. After listening to UNRWA, of course, the camp improvement planning, KfW, and GIZ, I think it's time to hear the experiences and voices directly from the Palestine refugees who were part of the camp improvement planning processes and have experienced on the ground the entire process. How this participatory planning approach benefited the refugee communities in Jordan. I think let's start with Ms. Isra. She will be sharing an audio. Let's hear from Ms. Isra first.
Hi, I am Isra Al-Dahir. I am 32 years old, a Palestinian refugee from Rashidiyeh camp, which is in the south of Lebanon. I'm married and a mother of a girl daughter, and worked in the camp's NGOs and CPOs as a volunteer in Beit Atfal Al-Sumud Foundation. Based on my experience and my good qualifications, I've been nominated by Beit Atfal Al-Sumud Foundation to participate in the working group for the camp improvement, which was formulated in the camp in 2013. All the representatives in the camp improvement committee, including myself, had the full space and time to discuss our problems freely and without any repression. Mainly the camp's needs that were highlighted and thoroughly discussed were to secure a safe and inclusive recreational area for the camp's families and the camp's community, to provide the necessary care and services for the elderly people in the camp as they are a part of the marginalized groups in the camp. The most important achievements of the project were securing a recreational area for parents and children to spend their time in under the stifling conditions of the camp, equipping Al-Sanabil Center for Elderly and supporting it financially and technically, giving support for the Women Program Center to build a new floor and rehabilitating the reproductive kitchen, rehabilitating the 700 children in the camp, establishing a sewage network in the new part of the camp, as well as moving the landfill to outskirts of the camp away from the population centers, empowering the camp's civil institution by conducting extensive training courses, especially in writing projects proposals, and as I mentioned before, most of the proposals were funded and implemented because they came from the real suffering and urgent needs of the camp's community. Their voices were heard through the 11 focus group sessions that were conducted in an atmosphere of comfort and freedom of expression. Even the children had the chance to draw their vision of a better camp. We have a lot of tours and on foot walks through the camp to identify the problems. All the needs and the problems were tabulated in a long list that were prioritized later on by the working group. To gain the trust of the camp's community, we voted for which projects to be piloted, and then we consulted with experts to give us the needed technical support, and we succeeded to plan for quick win projects such as building the surf breaker to protect the shelters close to the shore. This project strengthens my relation with the other associations in the camp by having a better coordination and exchange of services. I believe that the camp improvement project is successful and must be sustained as it positively impacted our lives, well-being, and dignity. We're now drinking clean water, the camp environment is clear from pollutions, mainly caused by sewage water and solid waste. Our seniors spend happy times with their peers in Sanabil Center and are receiving the necessary health and psychosocial care. The rehabilitation of the productive kitchen in the Women Program Center secured for jobs for some women and give them the opportunity to improve the livelihood for their families. The degraded shelters are now rehabilitated, protecting families from harsh weather conditions, enable children to live and study in comfortable and clean place. Therefore, I hope all the success and continuity in improving camps and securing more funds for projects that are emanating from the voices of the people in the camps. I would like to thank the BMZ, KFW, and GIZ for their generous donations and continuous support for the Rashidi camp. God bless you.
Good evening. I am Khalid Awad El Karroud. I am a school teacher in the Ministry of Education in Jordan. I am so happy to with you. Hamid Jwaiza is a volunteer. He will speak to you as he excellent at English. Yeah.
I hold a bachelor's degree in business management. I am a social activist and I chair the local committee for the Community Rehabilitation Center for the Persons and Disabilities. I was born in 1970 in Husson Camp and I was raised here. In 2011, I've got engaged with UNRWA Camp Improvement Project team and participated in a discussion meeting hosted by the Committee of the Department of Palestinian Affairs in Husson Camp. The meeting was conducted to launch the project and to create and engage camp's community and activists in a community decision-making platform for the participatory planning known as the working group. The project team were keen about representing all the camp's community institutions, committees, and all the sectors of the groups, including women, youth, persons with disabilities, elderly, and men. The project was funded by the BMZ. Its main goal was to produce the camp improvement plan. During our engagement in participatory camp improvement planning process, we received extensive training program, which built our capacities and highly improved our performance. My main role, as well as the other volunteers in working group, was to work with the community and to project team to facilitate the process of identifying the issues and problems and thereby identifying the community needs for the improvement of the camp. Many of the members in the working group were social activists, representative of the camp's institutions or key persons of the camp's neighborhoods and tribes. Therefore, they were very much familiar with the community, especially the marginalized groups, so they easily reached the different segments of the community and encouraged them to participate in the project surveys and inviting them to attend the project's various activities, meetings, and discussion sessions. And I fully appreciate the BMZ, KFW, and GIZ support, which made our dream come true.
Thank you, Isra and Khalid, for sharing your experiences while preparing the camp improvement plan. With this, we reach to our last discussion item, how academia and research can bring this practice and can bridge this practice. And I believe this is important presentation, considering that research can contribute to further improve the overall participatory process. With this, I'm handing the floor to Dr. Ismail and then followed by Professor Philip.
Hello, everyone. So I will elaborate more on the broader potentials of participation and innovative project design that has been part of SIPs in some camps, which is quite important, because once one engages in the practicalities of a SIP process, it becomes apparent that addressing the complex urban problems of Palestinian camps today is quite daunting. Many of these problems thus require long-term and in-depth research to really understand the underlying issues and to be able to design projects that can succeed in addressing these problems. Often there are no standard solutions that exist to these challenges, and in other cases, no technical solutions can actually address them. And they need different social and political processes to resolve them. So I want to highlight some examples of how SIP processes opened up the debate on the issues of camp improvement through engaging with actors that were not necessarily UNRWA staff or from the camp's participatory platforms or working groups. So I'm talking about academics, students, and different forms of activists and the broader Palestinian communities that consider camps important. One of those engagements was the partnership between the KU Leuven Master's Program in Urbanism and UNRWA's Camp Improvement that took place between 2011 and 2016. And through this program, a group of master's students, usually around 5 to 6 students per year, would spend a summer as interns in a Palestinian camp where a SIP process was being conducted and where they would collaborate intensely with the working group and the UNRWA SIP teams. This engagement would allow for producing a larger and more in-depth quality of research about the camp. And concluding this internships is usually a planning and design workshop where the master students, UNRWA professionals, other experts from KU Leuven, but also community representatives would engage together for a week-long workshop to produce the comprehensive vision for the camp and design its different projects. The outcomes of these workshops then play an important role in the production and the adoption of the camp improvement vision that then takes place over a longer period of time with the working group and in the broader community of the camp. These collaborations, on one hand, expand the capacities of the UNRWA SIP teams in camp assessment, in project design, research, and in the development of the vision. But they also build new networks of engagement and solidarity between the students and the camp communities, especially as students discover the terrible historical and ongoing plight of the Palestinian refugees, And sometimes they would actually go back after completing their masters, and they assist in developing new initiatives on their own in the Palestinian camps they're working on, such as this initiative, Greening the Camps initiative, which is about creating green rooftops in the camps. Urban planning and design workshops is a typical format for producing camp visions, and which allow a broader network of experts and actors to engage in the process. The last one was conducted in Lebanon, in Badawi camp. And this was organized actually by 4 universities from Lebanon, Holland, Belgium, and Germany, in partnership with UNRWA and other agencies such as the LPDC and UNDP in Lebanon. So this is the vision for Badawi that was developed through this workshop. Another interesting case was the Nahr al-Bared reconstruction in Lebanon, which wasn't actually a traditional SIP project, but the planning and design was led by the SIP teams in UNRWA, and a SIP methodology was used in the planning for the reconstruction. The planning of the reconstruction engaged a huge body of professionals in Lebanon who volunteered to assist in the design and planning for the reconstruction of Nahr al-Bared camp, but also a huge body of Lebanese and Palestinian activists from beyond Nahr al-Bared, who played a key role in pressuring the Lebanese government to accept the community's vision for reconstruction, and thus highlighting the advocacy potentials of SIPs. In the West Bank, a critical and alternative education project was launched in Dheisheh camp. It was called Campus in Camps. The project focused on exposing the youth participants from the camps to the tools of critical research and project design, through addressing key questions that the participants thought were the most important in their community. I'm not sure if Campus in Camps is an actual or official SIP project, but it was implemented in a SIP camp, and it was addressing community priorities that emerged from the SIP process. And the project was developed and implemented by a large part by the same people who were part of the SIP process in Dheisheh. So this shows the kind of energies and potentials of how SIP processes can form a kind of foundation for new networks, new initiatives, and projects that have a life of their own, even after official UNRWA SIP processes is concluded. It also reminds us that the importance and the symbolism of Palestinian camps go beyond its mere residents. And even though many Palestinians don't live there in the camps anymore, the camps still play important social and political roles for Palestinians and non-Palestinians. Finally, it also shows that although camp improvement has a very clear methodology and very clear steps, their potentials really emerged when this process is appropriated in creative and new ways by the people who are implementing and engaging in SIPs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ismail, for bringing up how academia can contribute in the camp improvement planning. And especially the most important thing that you highlighted is, for me, is there is no one tailor-made solution for any problem. That's the most important thing, and that is the beauty of the camp improvement planning, because you cannot replicate everything the same sort of approach in everywhere. It has to be specific to the context. With this, may I request Professor Philip, over to you.
Thank you, Vijay. I would like to speak briefly about a research collaboration between the University of Stuttgart and UNRWA and the camp communities, which takes us right to the beginning of the camp improvement program, back to the 2000s. And I would like to therefore offer a short view back across this amazing learning journey and end up also with a short view forward about how camp improvement might need to evolve in the future. I wholeheartedly believe that this learning journey is not only essential to be continued for UNRWA, but can also be beneficial for many other protracted refugee situations around the world. So let me quickly remind ourselves of the situation in the early 2000s, in which the idea for a new program was born. As was said before, over decades, temporary tent cities of refugee camps had developed into very complex and diverse living environments. Many camps had indeed transformed into hyper-congested masses of multi-story buildings characterized by concentrations of poverty and extreme overcrowding. In a kind of ongoing academic research around camps, these situations were often referred to as camp cities, which ranked indeed amongst the densest urban environments in the world. And the residents' perceptions, as was already mentioned by Dr. Ismail, is ambivalent. On the one hand, camps were spatial archives and symbols of Palestinian dispossession and exile, and a constant reminder of the fact that the refugee plight remains unresolved. On the other, they had become everyday living spaces, sources of shelter, refuge, services, work, places of attachment and belonging. So at that time, there was a deep sense of urgency in the agency and in the donor community with regard to the poverty, the extreme congestion, the lack of dignity embodied by many refugee camps. So the first window, I think, towards a new approach was opened up by the 2004 Geneva Conference to address the built environment in a structured rather than ad hoc and piecemeal approach. The idea that motivated us was to use this opportunity, to take this opportunity at this critical time to set up a research collaboration between the University of Stuttgart, UNRWA, and the camp communities, which I was fortunate enough to lead. And that provided a kind of critical, protected framework for an honest, open discussion with the camp communities and UNRWA staff, and a set of experimental steps, first in several refugee camps in the West Bank and later in other regions as well. And we started off with a kind of vision that I think still remained and were later transformed as some of the core principles of camp improvement. First of all, the situation in camps cannot be improved in a sustainable way through conventional, expert-driven, top-down master planning, whether by UNRWA, the host government, or other expert groups. It was very clear that first and foremost, we had to win the trust and the support and ownership of camp communities, acknowledging that it is the dwellers themselves who hold the key for improvement, because they are living in the camps. They had been living there for decades. They will continue to live for longer, and on a daily basis, improvised, made ends meet, joined resources to make it work. So this knowledge, this expertise of the dwellers themselves always forms the starting point of successful camp improvement. Thirdly, physical improvement cannot be done in an isolated way. Planning for improvement had to follow a developmental approach, thinking about how physical improvement could be synergetic with the building of livelihoods and increased developmental opportunities for camp communities, therefore is crucial. And lastly, of course, camps do require outside help and resources and expertise. And UNRWA at the time had to be equipped with an entirely new tool set to grow into that role. Within the agency, this huge agency responsible for Palestinian refugee camps across the Middle East, a mental shift had to take place from sectoral relief thinking towards cross-sectoral spatial thinking. And fears and reservations, both from members of the community and also host governments and agencies, were huge at the beginning and had to be overcome. Would camp improvement compromise other relief packages? Would camps be turned into cities, be normalized? Pushbacks within the large bureaucracy of UNRWA itself also suddenly told to question and change their approach. We had to build trust. The result was the idea of camp improvement planning as a process of establishing a new quality of dialogue between the agency, community, camp communities, and donors. CIP planning would become a blueprint to guide improvement measures in a holistic sense. A groundbreaking approach, which I believe it has emerged into, to grassroots participation, which empowers refugees to decide on the priorities to improve their own living conditions and lives prospects in camps. A locally negotiated and owned spatial blueprint for improvement in a participatory, community-driven planning approach, addressing in a more coordinated way refugee camps' physical and social improvement needs, addressing tangible as well as intangible needs, infrastructure projects, as well as social cultural initiatives to be implemented in an integrated manner. Today, you've seen many of the outcomes of various camp improvement processes. And I want to end by looking out towards the future. I do believe camp improvement remains an essential discipline, an essential journey to be continued. Planning at the grassroots level is never easy. Resources to implement good ideas are always scarce. In addition, refugee camps are, of course, far from stable, predictable, normal situations. The Middle East is caught in perpetual conflicts with no solutions in sight. In addition, human-made global climate change induced extreme weathers, heat waves, droughts that are plaguing the region increasingly and always hit weakest hardest, such as camp dwellers. And other crises, of course, such as the current Ukraine conflict, require the attention of the donor community and bind resources elsewhere. Yet I really believe that for refugees, the act of planning and shaping their own environment can distill a sense of dignity and empowerment that might be even far more important and lasting resource than any specific intervention or any single improvement measure alone. The key challenge is to keep camp improvement alive as an ongoing and open-ended experiment against all odds. It can never and should never become a rigid bureaucratic routine. Only through the sustained support of the international donor community can camp improvement continue to make a significant difference to the lives of Palestinian refugees and contribute to their human development and dignity. Back to Vijay.
Thank you, Professor Philip, for taking us to, the history of, especially to the Geneva conference, and where it was agreed that the top-down approach is not an ideal solution for improvement in the camps. Also, you highlighted that planning at the grassroots level is not easy. I agree completely, because working in participation with the community, it's not like a rocket science. You don't get the result just like this. You have to work with the community, and it's a time-taking process. So it's very important that the participatory planning, don't give a result just in a second, like any other project or something like that. So thank you for highlighting all these issues during your presentation. With this, we are coming to an end of this session. And maybe I would like to wrap up. So on behalf of UNRWA and BMZ, firstly, I would like to sincerely thank all our esteemed panel members and Palestine refugees who presented their experiences and views on participatory camp improvement planning. We heard the perspective from donors and the development partners about the benefits of engaging community in the improvement process. Also heard about how camp improvement planning is benefiting the refugees community in improving their overall built environment, and most importantly, how they are partnering and leading the entire process in shaping their own camp. We also heard the rich and very valuable inputs from academia, highlighting their experiences in further strengthening the camp improvement process. With this, we would like to close the session, thanking once again our panel members, and a special thanks to all our viewers who are seeing this session. We wish and hope that this approach will continue contributing significantly in improving the living conditions of Palestine refugees living in camps until their rights are fulfilled. With this, thank you to all. Thanks.